feel like if I was going to over-engineer it, I'd like puree some of it, but then leave some little whole bits in there. It's very tasty.
The judges will be considering the texture of the breads, the taste of the breads, and the appearance of the breads today.
So we have raspberry lemon glazed muffins, and we have a lot of, you can smell the raspberry aroma, like when they first get out the oven, that smell is delectable, truly. But then the zestiness of the glaze helps with the taste, and overall I think it's like really sweet and nice.
We made a carrot cake Swiss roll with pecans on the inside, chopped up pecans. Personally, I think people love it. I've had like family and friends both try it, and they've told me that they really like it. So hopefully we can take home a win or something.
And it's my first year. I'm kind of nervous. I don't know what's really going on. Well, I got him to help guide me through, my teachers, so I'm really excited.
My group made Greek Gods mini breads, and I hope people will really like it. I think it's a nice savory bread. This is my first time competing in this competition, and I really hope that the judges will like what we made for them today.
This is my first year with District 214. This is my first experience with the Bake Off, and so far it's been so wonderful to see all these kids work so hard to prepare their quick breads. We're super proud of our students, and just knowing them for only a year and seeing how great of a relationship we can form over that year, and to be represented here today all together is just so rewarding.
As usual, we struggled with which one was going to make it, but there was one that stood out for both its colorful presentation, its the subtleness of the flavors blending together so well. The texture was perfect, and that would be the cheesy bread. One again stood out. It had wonderful creativity of adapting the recipe and putting it into a new kind of format. Very good balance of flavors, and that would be the carrot cake Swiss roll.
I'm really proud of myself and proud of my team members. I don't go to BG, I go to Wheeling, so being able to represent my school means a lot to me.
Yeah, it was a great experience. I had a lot of fun trying the other team's foods.
I'm just speechless. I love this event now. Regardless of winning or not, I'll do this again if I have the chance. So.
Today we're here at Autobahn Raceway and we're racing some cars at the D214 Super Mileage competition. The objective of the Super Mileage competition is to build a car that can get the highest gas mileage. So usually beginner teams are about in the 200 mile per gallon range, with veteran teams getting as high as like 500 to 700 miles per gallon. And it's all about basically maximizing your fuel efficiency with your car.
Let's go!
Yeah, so driving it so far has been pretty good. We only had one mishap with the chain popping off.
You're magic, Danny.
Come on, man.
I don't know how he does this. Like, he's the only one who knows how to do this.
You don't know how it works, but it works, you just go with it.
And I welded up the whole frame, a few welds here and there done by others, and I cut a few metal. But my whole thing was the rear chassis, where the chain is, and keep slipping, but little zip tie here, bolt there, duct tape there, ragnack at it. She works well.
Alrighty, power.
I love the team. I started last year, and I just kind of thought it'd be a fun thing to do, but it's turned into a pretty serious project, and I definitely want to do something similar in college at U of I. I might either do the Super Mileage team there or the Form USA team. So yeah, I'm really excited to transfer my knowledge from this to the future, and maybe even possibly going into the racing industry.
This competition is really fun. It's basically culminating of 6 months of hard work for these kids. It's really one of the biggest events the tech department of 214 has. Earlier in the year we do the battle bots, but this is kind of the end year culminating project for a lot of our students, and they have a lot of fun, really fun doing it.
My buddies were in this, and so I joined it. I learned how to weld. I learned more about CADing, computer-aided design, and just learned just basic mechanics. And I thought that was amazing, and then that made me really want to become an engineer in the future, or a mechanic.
I've always enjoyed tinkering with motors and whatnot, and they said, hey, you can build a car. I'm like, oh, I love building cars. And from there, I got to mess with the motor and tweak around with it, and I really enjoyed it. It's really hands-on, probably one of the best things I could ever do.
Danny, even then I was barely touching the throttle.
Oh, so you got power backed up on it.
Yeah.
Muffin? Still like half a tank.
Oh yeah, like the same amount as last time. Good job.
Yesterday I did a tour here and I got to meet a rear Ferrari engineer, and he was telling us about the car and whatnot, and I got to meet the owner of the facility, and they offered me a possible internship, and from there hopefully I get into the career and excel from there.
Test 1, 2.
You never know.
When I was in high school and I went to Hersey, we did this, and it's now great to see it come back from being a high school student when I was in 2015 to now being able to instruct these students and show them how cool and great these career pathways are.
Join High Mileage, the best thing you could ever do. Amazing people, amazing staff, everybody here's to help one another. You don't got it till someone will have it and they'll be happy to lend it to you, and vice versa. It's an amazing place, a lot of love, and people are everywhere around to help you succeed. No one's here to put you down.
Make some noise, hey! Woo! We can hype each other up. Let's make some hype noise. Let's go. Oh yeah, oh yeah, oh. Oh yeah, oh yeah, oh. D214, what's up now? D214, what's up now? It's a freedom call.
Today we are celebrating Voices of District 214 at Prospect High School, and it includes all 6 of our sister schools in our district. And we are bringing in a guest clinician. His name is Lonnie Norwood Jr., and he comes with a vast background of gospel and spiritual music.
Let the light from the lighthouse shine on me.
I've been in music education overall for about 17 years, and I am just in love with really remembering and remembering music of the Africana experience, and I share it with everybody regardless of what their background is, because I'm all about creating love and light and community.
We're gonna clap our hands and sway. Clap your hands. Hey, woo! Come on, energy. Put some energy in that step.
This is a special day for the district because we get together our younger singers, our newer singers, and this is an opportunity for them to sing in a large group instead of like a smaller choir that they might have at their home choir, or they're in a large group, and also gives them an opportunity to work with a different type of director than the one that they have at their home school.
To your left and sway.
Mr. Norwood, he got us very pumped up, and like so we were ready. Like he was very energetic off the start, and I feel like people like found their vibe off of his energy.
And dip, and dip, and dip. Bring it back again. Go 2 to the left, woo, and 2 to the right.
Well, I feel like with the movements, I mean, it's just something like we've never done before, and it just allows us to get out of our comfort zone and just kind of let like the spirit of music guide us.
I really like it so far. It's great to connect with friends from other schools and learn new music, especially the African music.
From the lighthouse, let it shine on me. Woo! Teachers, do you recognize your students right now? Look at them. All right. Excellent, everybody.
I get, show that it's okay. It gives permission for everybody else to be themselves, to let loose, to have fun, not take themselves too seriously, as I remind them that my sort of motto is always, listen, you do not have to be the best to give your best, and, laugh. Ending. It's a beautiful thing to see the transformation from 9 a.m. to the end of the day, right? They're not going to leave here the way that they came in, and it's because they did the work. They invested and they said, I'm going to take a chance on myself, and I'm going to contribute and show up for all of my peers in this space, and I'm going to let the music work through me. It's just been a pleasure to work with them, to hear those dynamic, strong voices, and to see those expressive faces. The education, man, it just brought all of that out. So I'm really, really exceptionally proud to be a part of this experience.
Let the music, hey. Let the music take control.
We want to thank Lonnie Norwood Jr. so much for taking the time to come out here today to expose us to this type of music and to reach all of our students in a way that they haven't been reached through this type of music before in our district.
Thank you, Mr. Norwood, for coming.
We're super excited to have the 9/11 Never Forget mobile exhibit here at Hersey High School. As the truck arrived, we had Hersey parents out front with some patriotic balloons. We had Hersey students lining the sidewalks. We had some, mini American flags like they would show on the honor flights. The spirit was high.
Good morning. I'd like to welcome you to the Stephen Siller Tunnel of Towers mobile exhibit. We have a 50-foot trailer, approximately 1,100 square feet exhibit. We travel our nation to commemorate the brave sacrifice of the firefighters, police officers that gave their life that day in the greatest rescue and recovery effort in our nation's history.
The reason we're here is at Hersey High School to come educate our youth on the happenings of that day, but also the happenings of the days after, and to let them know that it was a huge tragedy. It was the single largest loss of life day we've ever had. It was also the largest rescue we've ever had as well, but just all the good that has come from that tragic day. And they're going to learn things that they can't read about. They're going to hear stories that some have never been told, some have been told many times.
Stephen Siller was one of the 343 firefighters that died that morning. He was getting off duty that morning. He was going to play golf with his older brothers, heard the plane strike, heard on the news that the plane struck the building, turned around, drove back to his firehouse, Squad 1, located in downtown Brooklyn. They had already been dispatched to the disaster. He got his gear, drove his own truck to the Brooklyn Battery Tunnel, where he donned 60 pounds of gear, ran 2.5 miles through the tunnel, mustered up with the rest of the firefighters, and gave his life that day, honoring his oath that he took to protect life and property.
So this is about remembering. So we want people to remember, obviously, for adults to remember and for the kids to learn. So we don't want this forgotten. It's not taught in most schools in America. And they have the privilege of talking to people who are there. We can't talk to people who were in the Civil War or these other moments in American history, but they can. And I think that's pretty special. Thanks for having us, and this means more to us than you. This means a lot to these kids, and these kids would be great. They're very respectful. They listen. It's nice to see.
A special thanks, especially to the FDNY crew, to the Siller Foundation, to Soldiers Journey Home, to District 214, to all of Hersey. I'm grateful for everybody. A special shout out to Bill Dustin for the magic spirit. Special shout out to Chief Harris, Arlington Heights Police. The coolest part about this project was there's like a whole bunch of people that were on it and did it. It wouldn't have happened without a whole bunch of people. The list is just too long, and to me, that's actually a good thing to celebrate.
We have a transportation career day. What we're trying to do is bring out as many industry partners as we can to connect with our students, to teach them a little bit about all the different careers in transportation.
Students have the opportunity to see different tooling companies and practice using these tools, talk to the people that design them and go, hey, is there a career pathway for me? Do I want to do designing tools or making tools? Do I want to design cars? Do I want to build cars? Do I want to work on cars? There's tons of career opportunities in automotive alone. And then on top of that, we have aviation. Do you want to be a mechanic for aviation? We have students from all of District 214 being bused over to our D214 aviation program that's partnered with Lewis University, where you can learn to be a pilot and learn about what it takes to do aviation maintenance and all the different things in that world. It's something that we don't typically see in a school classroom, so we want to send kids over there to see, hey, what's that program about? And hey, do you want to go into that field? It's a whole nother field of transportation that people don't think about.
How many of you guys are going to do something with tools after this is done? Anybody? All right, this is for you.
There's so many different careers in transportation, truck driving, transportation in general, shipping. There's just so many different opportunities and so many different career pathways that kids get to learn about from not just teachers, but the people actually doing the career. So it's such a great opportunity for the kids, and it's really an amazing time.
We just want to thank everybody for the support. First of all, our local partners and industry partners that came out today to make this happen, and we just want to also thank our district administration for the support in this, and our building administration for letting us have this out in our back lot. We're very thankful to be able to put something on like this, and so happy to be able to give our students an opportunity to connect with everybody.
Good evening. I want to call the order Township High School District 214 Board of Education for Thursday, October 24th, 2024. Ms. Keys, can you please call the roll?
Dustling.
Here.
Fiorito.
Here.
Heineman.
Present.
Palmer.
Here.
Rauch.
Here.
Walker.
Here.
And Kreutzer.
Present, thank you. Can we all please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance? Wrong way. Okay. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America Yeah, confuse us. Okay, thank you. Can I have a motion and a second for approval of the agenda?
So moved.
Second.
There's been a motion and a second. Please call the roll.
Fiorito,
Yes.
Rauch,
Aye.
Dustling,
Yes.
Heineman,
Aye.
Palmer,
Aye.
Walker,
Yes.
and Kreutzer.
Aye.
Motion carries 7-0.
Thank you. Can I have a motion and a second for the approval of the open and closed minutes from October 10th, 2024?
So moved.
Second.
There's been a motion and a second. Any comments? Please call the roll.
Palmer. Aye. Fiorito,
Yes.
Dustling,
Yes.
Heineman,
Aye.
Rauch,
Abstain.
Walker,
Yes.
and Kreutzer.
Aye.
Motion carries 6-0-1.
Thank you. Next on the agenda is public comments, and I understand no one has signed up.
Correct.
So we will move on to roll call items. We have 2 action items this evening. 6.1, can I have a motion and a second?
So moved.
Second.
Any comments? Please call the roll.
Dustling,
Yes.
Fiorito,
Yes.
Heineman,
Aye.
Palmer,
Aye.
Rauch,
Aye.
Walker,
Yes.
and Kreutzer.
Aye.
Motion carries 7-0.
Thank you. Our next action item is approval, or 6.2, excuse me, a motion and a second.
So moved.
Second.
There's been a motion and a second. Any discussion? Thank you. Please call the roll.
Palmer,
Aye.
Heineman,
Aye.
Dustling,
Yes.
Fiorito,
Yes.
Rauch,
Aye.
Walker,
Yes.
Kreutzer.
Aye.
Motion carries 7-0.
Thank you. We have one discussion item this morning. Dr. Rowe.
All right, thank you. As you know, we are deep in the strategic planning process at this point. We have one of our Deliver Ed partners here with us this evening, and Rebecca's going to guide us through the process that we followed thus far, update you on the work of our strategic planning committee, in which Mr. Hyman and Mr. Fiorito represent the board, and then kind of open for some conversation, discussion around where we are in the process. What you see in this draft, and as she will highlight numerous times, it is a draft 1.0. And then also engage in some discussion around, on the education side of the evening, is it's been 30 years since we've had a strategic plan. So as a school board, how do you lead from the board table through the strategic plan will be kind of the conversation. So turn over to Rebecca. Thanks for being here.
Yes. Trying to figure out my setup here. Hello. Again, I'm Rebecca. I'm with Deliver Ed, and I know you all have it in front of you as well, but I wanted to talk you through a little bit about, the process for the strategic plan. There we go. 3 things we wanted to cover today. One is just a little bit of a recap again for the purpose and what we're hoping that these 3 collective documents can help give the district for moving forward. Share our proposed drafts, draft in bold word there, from the steering committee that we're going out broadly in November to get feedback from as many stakeholders as possible, and then discuss, as Dr. Rowe said, the role of the board and how you can use this moving forward, not only during the planning process, but especially during implementation to guide the work. I want to start by saying that a lot of people who create strategic plans do create beautiful, wonderful, well thought out plans that then sit on a shelf. And we are here to make sure that doesn't happen, which is why we need feedback on these drafts, because we're actually going to live it out. So look at these words carefully, give us the feedback that you have, because we're going to actually put in place routines and ways of making sure that this plan becomes a reality. So it's serious when we talk about what we want to create, because we're actually going to do it. As Dr. O said, we are deep into the process, so we started in the spring, reviewing the state, and presented to you all in August around what we found in that review. We are now in the steering committee work, which is doing 2 things, has done 2 things that we're here to talk about: setting the long-term vision, that's both the vision for the district and the vision for a graduate, as well as deciding on what those 5-year strategic plan priorities might be. The outline of the plan that can start us on the first 5 years towards that long-term vision. Note there's more work to come. Even once we have the strategic outline ready to go, we need to put pen to paper and actually put the meat on the bones of what that actually means to do. So what you're going to see today and what we're giving feedback on now is just the priorities. It's not exactly how those will be executed. That comes next. So you won't see all the details of implementation. That's intentional. And then finally, we're going to set up those routines to make sure you can actually live it out and that it doesn't sit on a shelf. I'm really proud to say that this work has involved a lot of stakeholders so far, and with plans to include more moving forward. We are trying to constantly hit all of these buckets: the students, the families, educators, school staff, district staff, sender community, community members. The more voices we have at the table, the better the plan will be. And so we are keeping track to make sure we can find those pockets of students or families that we're not hearing from, because we want to make sure we get as broad input as we can. And you'll see where we are right now, we're about to go out to a lot of people to get a lot more input that we can synthesize and share back. I'm really struggling. There we go. Most recently, we've been working with a 40-person steering committee, and you see the names up here, but what I want to emphasize is just how many stakeholders are coming to the table across the district, across roles. We have every building represented. We have trying to get as many different stakeholder groups. And then what we do is we take those steering committees members and have them go out to their communities as well to share out, to get feedback. Again, trying to get the broad diversity of voices in the room, to use all the information we have from our review, from the existing data that you have as a district, and best practice across the country to come up with what these visions, long-term vision and plan can be. And so again, they've met 3 times. They've been engaged in deep workshops that you're going to hear about in a minute. We've had them visioning long-term. We've had them reading articles about the future of education. We've had them doing root cause analysis on some of your data and where the district is. And we've had them grappling with what those priorities could be, really rolling up their sleeves to get all the best perspectives before we go out for review, which is where we're at right now. And one more time, I want to note, after this, we'll turn it over to people who will actually put pen to paper on how we do the work. That's coming next. So we started with a visioning exercise, and I want to stop right now and just root for everyone in the room that we're creating a vision for a future that we can't even imagine. We're creating a vision for students who aren't even born yet. And so we need to think about what the world's going to be like in 20 years so that we can set our aim for that future and start now building towards it. And so we sat with the steering committee and started with what the world might look like in 20 years. The world will be completely different. Education will be completely different. We talked about how it will be more global, how there will be new challenges. In education, coding's going to be a basic requirement. My 8-year-old already knows how some basic coding. This is brand new. The whole thing's going to change. We need to be planning for that and be agile and innovative in that way. Employers are going to be looking for different things. They're going to have different needs, and the community is going to continue to change. We're already seeing changes in the D214 demographics. It will continue to change. So we need to be thinking about that future as we prepare this long-term vision, and then back into what we do in these first 5 years. Starting with that visioning and rooting in what could and should be, we worked with the steering committee to do 2 visioning exercises. Oh my gosh. Okay, so first was the long-term vision. What do we want to be true for the district? That's the first piece, the first document, draft document that I'm going to talk you through tonight that we want your feedback on. What do you want to be true for the district in 20 years? What can we hold ourselves to through all that change, through all of that progress? And also our portrait of a graduate. What do we want to be true for every individual student that leaves our community? Portraits of a graduate can help us define that and then make sure that we're teaching the whole person all the competencies we want, the so what, if you will, for going through education. We created a long-term vision, a portrait of a graduate, and then the outline of the strategic plan. We have our vision, our portrait. Now, what are those goals and those areas of focus we want to focus on for the first 5 years in order to get there? Quick note about this plan before we get into the details of it. One, it comes from a lot of different sources. Back at the beginning of the summer when we did our review, we looked at district data. We did a survey and had over 2,000 respondents across different roles and schools. We went into all of the steering committee workshops, the root cause analysis, all of the feedback, and what we've learned from other districts across the country. All of that is baked into what we believe is going to be most successful for 214 that we want feedback on. The second one is my favorite, and it's nobody's favorite. It intentionally does not cover everything. I guarantee in November, we're going to get great ideas about what else to add. A lot of great ideas, and I know some of you are going to be disappointed because we can't do everything. So it intentionally tries to prioritize around what we need to focus on now in these first 5 years to where we need to be on track with that long-term vision. I want all the ideas, but we can't do it all. So it intentionally does not include everything. And as I keep saying, it doesn't include the details yet, but it will. Once we align on the outline, that's when we'll get into what it's going to take to execute. Before I talk you through the drafts, I want to hand it over to one of your colleagues who has been participating on the steering committee to just give a little bit of a context as what we've been doing and how that's gone and how it's been for him. So, Mr. Heineman, would you mind sharing a little?
Sure. Thank you. I've been to the 3 planning meetings we've had so far, and I'm always a little apprehensive or skeptical of meetings, but these have all been very good use of my time. I've been to plenty of meetings that have been a waste. Would have been better off reading a book or something, but this has always been very good use of my time. They've always been full of constructive criticism, and it's very open and friendly. The groups that we had, you saw the list of people in the steering committee. It's an outstanding group of people. There's principals, administrators, teachers, parents, and students. And as far as I'm concerned, I don't think I've heard anybody that hasn't contributed. Everybody is contributing and is getting their ideas through. There have been significant changes that we've done. For example, up on the screen there, you can see in the upper right-hand corner where that arrow goes. That's supposed to be a graduate. It looks a little more like a witch. That's gone. We're not using that anymore. We've gone to the card in the lower right-hand corner. And there were things where you had to read from bottom to top, which was kind of disorienting, and that has been fixed. And it's been significant things. There's been some wordsmithing. For example, we used to have the phrase, diversity is our strength. We moved it to inclusivity is our strength, which relays our beliefs a little better. We also had foundational beliefs that we changed to aspirational beliefs, again, signaling that these aren't things that we're at, these are things we're trying to get to. As far as I'm concerned, every meeting has had valuable discussions of both things that look good and things that need help. Everyone that I've spoken to has added value to the strategic plan. So I think that's one of the goals, and it's been extremely successful so far. That's my 2 cents worth.
I love it.
I would concur with a lot of stuff that Mark said. The last meeting by far was our best meeting. On the downside, I thought we probably could have gone a little bit longer. We really had a lot of constructive conversation. There was a lot of conversation coming from some of the parent representation, which was nice to see, and there was, as Corey had said, you know, don't hold back, and there was a lot of people who didn't hold back in that. It wasn't like anything was really ugly, but people did say how they felt, and it totally went against some of the things that we're doing currently today.
Yeah.
We had a student from one of the schools whose principal is sitting in the audience that, brave soul that he was, he came out and pretty much told everybody that was in that room that the facilities at his school were not where they need to be. That when he goes to other 214 schools and sees the beauty of their buildings, he does not see it in his own school. And he doesn't feel that his school has things that could really make a bigger difference in how students, you know, how they go about their day. And I know Heath was very proud of the boy. I was too, being that my kids have gone through Hersey. So, like I said, the last meeting we had was phenomenal, because we really went and picked apart a lot of the goals. A lot of people had some concerns.
Yep.
It'll be interesting to see what we see tonight.
Mhm.
One gentleman talked about the block schedule, and that gentleman happened to be sitting right next to Dr. Rowe. And he was a brave soul for speaking out on what he felt he saw with the students in the building. So, yeah, I wish we had a couple more meetings to go with something like that. I think we could probably do exactly what you said. There's probably things we're missing, but that was a great meeting.
And I just want to, I mean, it's a great meeting because of the people in the room, and as much as you all, and I know you will, can encourage others to not hold back in November and give us feedback on this now so we can make this the best it can be. We can continue to iterate and make it as great as it can be, although we don't want to plan forever. We want to start implementing, so we're gonna move it forward after that. All right, so where are we? What have we come up with? Let's get into the what of it all. So first up is, no. I swear, yeah. Okay. So first up is the long-term vision, and I believe you have copies in front of you. Here, what we wanted to do, again, is set that vision for where our district is headed, not just for the next 5 years, but for the long term. All of this needs to be grounded in what we're calling aspirational beliefs. We started with foundational beliefs. These are beliefs we absolutely believe in and hold true, but they're not all in practice yet, which is why they're aspirational. First off, at the top, intentionally so, students are our focus. They have to be, they should be, they should continue to be. Inclusivity is our strength. It's not just something that we have, we lean on it, we get a lot of value out of it, it makes us stronger and richer. Hard decisions are required. Hard decisions about where things, what things, how we do things, especially when we try to innovate and be nimble, we're gonna have to make hard decisions, that's required. And agility will be non-negotiable now and in the future, and so that's absolutely a belief. We know it's true, we're committed to doing it, we're willing to be agile. And then finally, aligned autonomy is our way. We have 7 incredible schools, we have 6 comprehensives, and the specialized schools that are all unique and wonderful. And we can go faster together by having common set of some of our system-wide District 214 ways of some things, of celebrating what's unique across schools and sharing that in ways that we can go faster together. We are aligned as a district, even as we keep our unique and wonderful identities as buildings. With those beliefs, then, we can feed into our vision, which you can read down the right-hand side. Our vision will always be led by these beliefs and informed by data. And with those beliefs and informed by data, we're going to do a couple of things. Number one, we're going to engage and challenge all students in every classroom. This will lean on our strength of our educators, who are among the highest things that people praised when we talked about what's good about your district. We know we have amazing, incredible people. We have amazing opportunities with our pathways. Let's lean into that and make sure that that's true for every student in every classroom every day. Let's really lean in on the rigor and the engagement and making sure that everyone's experience is at that quality level we know we can provide. And we're going to build in the agility, adaptation, and youth leadership that it's going to take to really move beyond the regular to the exceptional. We're going to be able to adapt and innovate and move as the world changes, as our graduates change, as education changes. We're going to really start to build in some of that youth leadership and letting students own their own learning and be flexible and nimble in those ways. And all of this is in service of inspiring lifelong learners who thrive in innovation. Knowing that everyone who leaves our system, no matter what building you went to or what school you were at, can thrive in that changing world and in those opportunities because of the vision that we've set as a district. That's our long-term vision. Related to that is what we see for students, for the graduate. Portraits of a graduate are something that a lot of districts are doing across the country, and the reason is it really defines what you want to be true holistically of the individual who's leaving. It's not the standard for a certain math class. It's not the certain competency of a given curriculum. It's what you want to be true for the person who's leaving your system and defining those competencies so that you can measure and track and improve over time. And we went back and forth on a lot of different ideas, but landed on 8 we think capture what the whole student needs to be when they leave. The left-hand side is more internal facing for myself. If I am a thriving lifelong learner aligned to that vision from 214, I empower myself, which means I take care of my physical, emotional, and mental health needs, and I believe in myself and advocate for what I need. I empower myself. I can say that confidently as a graduate. I think critically. I analyze complex issues and propose innovative solutions to solve problems, and I seek and verify information from multiple sources before forming conclusions. I show resilience. I adapt to changes and remain flexible even in the face of adversity. And I dream big and persevere by using setbacks as learning opportunities. And finally, I remain curious. This is that lifelong learner piece. I never stop learning and pursuing knowledge. And I actively seek out different viewpoints and remain open to ideas that might challenge my own assumptions. On the other side, we have 4 competencies that we think are important from an external lens. So sure, you're empowered, you think critically, you've got resilience, and you're curious. But important, too, that you demonstrate kindness. And this one's heavy, and it really talks about being kind and compassionate in my words and my actions, and inclusive towards all people. It's reaching out to and supporting and appreciating your friends, your family, your community. We also believe it's important to communicate effectively. So thoughtfully articulating my views, opinions, and ideas, and effectively communicating with diverse audiences and encouraging constructive conversations. We think all graduates should build relationships, seeking out meaningful connections with others, and empathizing and collaborating effectively with others. And lastly, anyone who comes out of D214, a competency that we believe is in the portrait of our graduates is that they support their community. So I actively participate in and serve my community, and I apply practical knowledge and visionary thinking to make a positive impact in the world. These are things that we think if we actually hold ourselves to and measure and support students to accomplish, that we can have every single D214 graduate have this be a portrait of all of the things that they can and should do that will set them up to be that lifelong learner who can thrive in innovation. Those are the 2 forward-looking pieces. Now I want to talk about how we get there in the next 5 years. So the steering committee did a lot of work on thinking about, if that's our future, look at the current experiences, dig into some root causes and discussions, some hard discussions around what's holding us back, What do we need to focus on most right now? And that work elevated up into 4 proposed goals for the next 5 years. So this is what would be, if everyone agrees, and I'm sure it will be different, but if today were the day, this would be the 4 things that your strategic plan would focus on for the next 5 years. Engaging all students in meaningful learning, fostering an environment that values and supports everyone to thrive, maximizing the impact of district resources, and finally, unlocking new possibilities for D214. And just a minute on this, those first 3 are really about shoring up what's good and taking a little farther to be great on what's happening in D214 from an instructional lens, from a cultural lens, and from how you're really maximizing the impact of resources. That 4th one is allowing us to do those hard decisions and be agile and be innovative and push the envelope like we know D214 can and does do, to think about the future, to bring in the next thing, to innovate our spaces, to be those really new, innovative ways of unlocking possibilities for graduates for the future. So those are the 4. Each one of them has strategies underneath that we think are important, that we want feedback on. I'm going to read through this, and then I'm going to pause and see if I can get any feedback from you all. In goal 1, and every goal, we start with what we're going to leverage because there's incredible assets already in place. And in goal 1, engage all students in meaningful learning, here we get to leverage the incredible educators and the robust career pathways that are already in place. And what we'll do when we leverage those is focus on 3 things. Enhancing instruction for all students with a clear district-wide vision and associated high-quality materials. Providing ongoing staff support that aligns to how to achieve that district-wide vision. And ensuring strong students' transitions into and from D214. That's from our senders and off to whatever you do after you graduate. For goal 2, fostering an environment that values and supports everyone to thrive, we're going to really lean on those strong relationships and connected community that we already have in our buildings and across the district to do 3 things. Really take action on the commitment of promoting inclusivity for all in our buildings, for all students, for all families, for all staff, making sure that that's actually happening and being felt by those stakeholders. Offering dedicated social emotional instruction and support to meet those growing demands and needs that we know are so critical in all of our buildings. And then lastly, leveraging community partnerships and support to continue to build that strong sense of community and self in those buildings with all of the resources that come in from them. The 3rd goal is really about creating what's good across the district, sharing it, leveraging it, and maximizing it. So we're going to lean on our already mindful allocation of resources to do 2 things in this goal. One is really prioritize some cross-school collaboration. You have amazing things happening in buildings that are not always transparent or known in the other buildings that could steal, borrow, learn, as well as just leveraging some for efficiencies. And then second, there are some operations, systems, and resources happening at the district level that could be streamlined and more efficient, that could free up some of those resources for some other pieces. So this goal is really about making sure we're looking at the entire district and finding the best ways to leverage, learn, share, and do better. And then finally, the innovation goal, the unlocking new possibilities. You all already have a culture of being innovative and pushing the envelope. So we're going to lean into that and get ready to achieve that long-term vision of being agile and making those hard decisions to do 2 things. First, and it's related to what that student said yesterday and what we heard from some of the stakeholders earlier on, which is just reimagining our learning spaces to make sure that we have those opportunities for truly boundless learning and student development that needs to happen in them. And second, we're planning for what we don't know. We want to incubate some innovation, try things out at different buildings, lean on our unique strengths to see what is working, what should we scale district-wide, what should we get rid of and move on to the next thing. Really adapting to student experiences, learning spaces, AI, grading strategies, all sorts of different ways of pushing the envelope, but incubating that and innovating on that to see what works, what sticks, what should scale, and then moving D214 forward in the process. This is our proposal for the outline. This is based on those workshops, the conversations, the data, and the survey from the original summer work. But what we're doing now is we're asking for your feedback and others' feedback. I'm going to pause in a minute to ask for your thoughts live, but I also want to just flag for you, in November, we're going out with an open survey for all. We're having steering committee members go out and share out these presentations with their constituents. I know Dr. Rowe and team are going to every building. They've got parent councils lined up. So we're going to shop this around a lot. So love your thoughts, and there will be other opportunities as well. But I do want to just pause and hear, first of all, if there's any questions, but then any thoughts that anyone has.
Before I open it up to board members, is there anything you'd like to add, Dr. Rowe?
No, I don't think there's nothing major. I just wanted to echo Mr. Hyman, Mr. Fiorito's points. Our steering committee conversations have been fantastic. Deep engagement across all groups that are represented there. I really have to commend, we presented it to our superintendent, president, student advisory just before this meeting and got some great feedback from our kids even. So it's been a really wonderful process. I always enjoy this process because the level of engagement and connectivity that we're able to achieve when talking about how we want to improve and accentuating the things that we're already doing well. It just reminds us that we're really fortunate to live and work in such a wonderful district, but there's always room for improvement, and we've got a lot of really energized people ready to tackle the work. So looking forward to the feedback. As Rebecca said, starting next week, I'll be going to all of our buildings to present to our staff. And then in November, we'll be going to all of the parent-teacher council meetings to present to our parent communities. And then we've scheduled a series of community coffees through the Chamber of Commerce to share these ideas throughout the remainder of the school year to gather feedback from our business communities as well. So I'm really excited about that work. Thank you.
Mr. Dusling, would you like to start?
Sure, I'm going to comment right now.
Okay. Ms. Palmer?
Well, first, I want to thank everyone who got us to this point. I appreciate the time and effort that goes into it. Just as a general thing, when you take it out to the community, I had to move to my strongest readers in order to go through it. And so I would say maybe increasing font size and things on pages so it's easier for people to see. As I went through, there were so many great things that you're talking about, but a couple things really struck me that I think maybe we're missing in our portrait of a graduate. And I'm concerned that our graduate portrait doesn't include trying to get our graduates to realize their own personal responsibility for their education and their responsibility to learn how to be a leader in their own world. And that doesn't mean that everyone needs to be the captain of the team, but there are things that we're each good at and learning to express our voice and exert that leadership potential. So on the responsibility front, I think those are two different things to me. I'd like to see us emphasizing our students to have personal accountability and being invested in their own journey, like connected to their journey, invested in their journey.
We actually heard that feedback from one of our students in the session prior that he wanted to see student ownership of the learning by the time they graduate, which I think is very similar to the point that you're making. Good point.
Then when you go to college or you go to a trade or you go someplace else, to be able to say, what do I want to get out of this experience and this position? To build that into sort of every class, that question of what would enhance my life if I were to take out of this learning experience. So that is something that I hope our graduates are getting, but I wish were emphasized a little bit more. And then, when we say fostering an environment that values and supports everyone to thrive, I think
the goal language?
It's a soft gap, so,
Yeah.
you know, I generally come from a favorite Jeopardy teacher. So but I do think
Yeah.
that we need to sort of, to ask people to come on, give them, you know?
Yeah.
So, like, to be part of it.
Yep.
You know, and I guess that's my last point is, when we looked at the portrait of the graduate, we didn't say that the graduate had a level of readiness. We said good characteristics, but not that we were going to help them see sort of the next step, next level, where they're going, et cetera. So, you know, we spent so much time focusing on readiness, right? And I feel like that's a little lost in this. And I love the concept of ready for, and you know, some of it's being productive community members and being good lifelong learners, which are skills you need to take into your life. But, I mean, are there actual benchmarks for readiness? Like, you know, because we're in the education business,
Mm-hmm.
you know, you can go to a store and add things. You can, you know what I mean? Like hitting some of those things. So maybe that's more nitty gritty. Maybe that's not at this point, but okay.
It's helpful.
Thanks, Millie. Mr. Walker?
Just have a couple comments. You know, one, it's amazing to see most of us in business have a strategic plan that we go after, and this is really well done, so I applaud the group for doing that in the level of detail. I will say the students of 214 always impressed me when we were one-on-one, and, you know, the phrase that pays, to your point, Millie, was, the young man in there said, taking the reins for learner in a less structured environment. Because in college, you might be one of 300 sitting in a classroom or in a lecture hall. So, you know, I know it's all what we think too, and all the other community members, but those students really have the future of what it's going to be in 20 years. And you know what? I was very comforted knowing that the kids that were in there, not even kids, the young adults that were in there ready to take on the next step really are putting to work what we want to do with the strategy. So I felt in a very good place in there rather than having to spoon feed anybody. Society will always have to spoon feed some people, but I'm telling you, there are leaders in that room over there that will take higher. You know, and I was just very impressed with that, and that speaks to the work that your group has done, so thank you very much.
Thank you. Ms. Rock? Oh, anything, Andrew?
Oh, you already put your 2 cents in.
You can get another one.
I would also like to echo what the previous board member said. I mean, a great deal of work has gone in, and as a board, we absolutely appreciate this and everyone's participation and contributions. I do agree with Board Member Palmer regarding the readiness. I am happy to see the empower self, think critically, without a doubt. I mean, that's even come up in previous board meetings through the years. But a certain level of capability to provide for themselves or be competent when they leave our doors, whatever path they take from there. And in, you know, along the lines of the accountability, that it is their accountability, I do think it's a good point. But I do think the readiness of some form, and maybe it is covered under think critically, and that's ultimately, while they cover all the subjects, right? That's what we're trying to strive through those. So I would be curious to see what the steering committee has to say on that point.
Can I ask a follow-up question?
Absolutely.
Okay, because I'm really interested in the readiness, readiness for what, right? Because there's readiness for like college and career readiness, and those are standards-based specific competencies, but in certain curriculum areas. But it sounded like what you were saying was more of readiness to take on your own life, your own opportunities, and that it sounds a little bit like what you're saying too, which is it's not about the math readiness. It's not about the I can perform at a higher level with my science skills. It's really I can independently and confidently not only survive, but succeed in the world I'm about to enter into. Am I reading into the readiness ask right, or were you talking about academic readiness? Or both?
I think that in the education business, there has to be some rigor and in teaching kids basics.
Yeah.
Basics of how our world that we live in work.
Yeah.
And,
Yeah.
you know, being able to communicate, et cetera. And some of that is in here. I see that. But what I'm really looking for is when you're a freshman, you enter and it's a little overwhelming and you're just trying to get led along. What should I register for? What types of classes should I take? Where am I going? By the time you're a graduating senior, you should be able to figure out things for yourself that has, and there's an emotional component to that. There's an ownership of if I want to do this, then I must think, what are my next steps and how do I do that? And it's not somebody else telling you always what to do and how to do it.
Yeah.
Right?
Okay.
So it's teaching them a little to fly, I guess.
Okay.
I know one of our prior statements included contributing to society. And I always took much pride in that. And then there is the support my community, but I think there's a difference between support and contribute. And I think that was the readiness I was looking for.
Okay.
That we prepared them to go out there and make a difference.
Yep.
So that was
Yep.
along the lines.
That's helpful. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Fiorito, anything else to add?
Yeah, I actually do. So when we looked at the four goals that we put up there, I have my original documentation, and when you see what it was and what came out of all the conversation, every single one of these things pretty much changed. As far as the strengths, 2, 3, and 4 completely changed. So some of the things that I just want to share with my board members that came out of these conversations, and these were comments that clearly were not mine, but it was really interesting to hear. And a couple of them, we'll go with the first one, and that is that a lot of talk was discussed regarding administrators needing more coaching, retaining strong staff, and looking to make sure that we prioritize coaching and development. Not ongoing coaching, but we prioritize it. Comments were made that instructional coaching is overstretched, so there was clearly some alignment there. I mean, these are incredible comments. Student input needed on facilities. That was what that one gentleman said. Thinking outside the box on facilities. Another person mentioned that the career pathways runs against the success of testing, whether it be ACT or SAT. As I said before, somebody mentioned about the block schedule. My comment, which I don't think was addressed, but I know it's probably long-term, was in all these goals, I was looking as where are the feeder districts in all of this? Because I know we are clearly aligning ourselves with the feeder districts, starting with what's happened these last 3 days at the school, and we feel that what could be our greatest strength is making sure that, I know it's a goofy saying, but we want to try to make sure that the feeder districts are coming along for the ride. And we see our success would be based on their success. And if they succeed at making sure that their students are ready for when they come into our schools, it'll just make us that much better. So, and then one thing that really, I really took was on the number 2, and it was unique buildings with strong school pride. And I should have said in the first place, they had up on the wall all these goals, and you had to put green, yellow, and red. And the red means that you didn't agree with what they said. And it was really interesting because the unique buildings with strong school pride was the original strength, and there was a lot of people that didn't agree with that, and I was kind of shocked by it all. And somebody said that we need to make sure that we engage the quiet population. And I thought that was one that really resonated with me, is that too often we basically focus on the people who speak the loudest, and we somehow negate the people that really have some strong opinions and thoughts, so.
So we had a student in our advisory that made that exact point, that even activities from PEP assemblies or celebrations at school are really designed and celebrate the super involved and the extroverts. And not to forget about the introverts, because they love their school too, but they don't feel comfortable engaging in that type of activity, but they want to engage in their school.
Yep.
Which was a great point.
So I just want to conclude, I thank all you guys for, I know a lot of you are seeing this for the first time, and it's a lot to take in, but any type of feedback is important, because as you can see, what we've done, especially in one meeting, which we only focus on this piece for an hour and a half, it should have been much longer, but there was so much really good input, and if you see what I have in the original documentation, Mark has it too, and see what it is now, I mean, I'm looking and I'm like, what happened here? It's like, it changed so much.
We took that comment, and 1C is new, which is ensuring the strong transitions into and out of was a sender district. We saw it from more than just you. Couple people were bringing up, listen, senders are not bold enough in here. That's part of how we work, is we need all 6 of those, or however many we have to be, and 7, and it's like that level of people were like, you're right, it's not showing up, we need to add a whole strand around, think about that. So the feedback really is invaluable, because it's what helps steer this to be what is truly going to be owned by the community, so thank you.
Yeah, and I do want to give a shout out to Chris, because ours, which was number 3, the maximizing impact of district resources, a lot of it was put on like financial.
Yeah.
And it just didn't belong there. It really belongs in all 4, because we know we're coming up against down the line, but the district resources one really, for me, was very interesting, because it came from a money perspective to something completely different.
Yeah. Yeah.
Last comment, if I could.
Oh,
Okay, let me go to Mark first.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Mark, do you have anything else you would like to add? No. Oh, you're good. Okay, Mr. Walker.
I just want to focus on a couple things. I know the rigor and the readiness, has to be involved, but I will tell you, when I looked at this, to Andrea's point, would support my community. I mean, all of us that are parents, I think we look at the fact that we want our kids to grow up to be good citizens. Okay, and there's a thing at home that drives me nuts, #everyday math. None of my kids like math, and it's math you have to use every day. It drives me nuts. But they know how to do it on a calculator, they know how to do it, It's fine. But in the support my community, if that could be brought over somehow into this, because long as they use their practical knowledge to make a difference in their lives and lives of others, to me, that's ready.
Brought over to the goals, to the 5-year plan?
Over to myself side.
Oh, to the myself, got it, sorry, keep going.
And then secondly,
Okay.
being in the schools, before I got on the board and everything, my kids were all impacted with, and I know you guys are tired of hearing this, but all of my kids were impacted with the aha moment in school, to where they were great, and then they just went after they connected, whether it was with an educator, whether it was a club member, or whatever that is. So if we want our students to thrive, they have to be included in things, and they have to feel wanted. And I think this does a great job of getting everybody set up for that. You can't grow a person if they're not in the right environment. If they don't feel it's the right environment, and again, the little flower thing, right? Just because the flower doesn't grow doesn't mean it's a bad flower. It could be in a wrong environment. So I think this is on track, and we could wrestle it and still have work to do when it's final. It will never be final. I think this is a journey. I think it's going to be a great thing coming off, but everybody's comments are greatly appreciated, and I'll go back to that room in there. I'm always impressed with the students, that how they were zeroing in on this and what it meant to them. And really, that's big impact to me. So thank you for the additional comments.
Anything else? Good, you still good? Go ahead. Turn your mic on.
I jumped ahead to 15, 16, and 17. I don't know if we're going to hit that or not.
That's where I was going to go.
That's good, because that's where the rubber hits the road for me.
Do you want to ask something, or would you like me to quickly go through them?
That's fine.
Okay.
comment now or
I
comment
know you
later?
guys have taken over the mic, or the clicker, and boy, am I appreciative. So yeah, just to recap, we're going to go out to a bunch of, try to get as much stakeholder feedback as we can, including a survey and presentations. But if you go on to the next slide, we did want to talk for the third piece about your role during planning, but mostly during implementation. So the board plays a really important role in this. On the next slide, you'll see that part of the way that we make sure that the strategic plan does not collect dust is you have to set up routines to keep it alive. Check in on it. How are we doing? Problem solve. What do we need to do different? What do the data say? To the flower example, it might be it's still a good idea, we're just not implementing it well. Or it was a great idea, but it didn't work. We got to move on to something else because those are the outcomes we want for kids. This is just a sample of what a calendar can look like that will help you set up where you check in on a rotating basis across your primary goal areas and your priorities. You have accountable people who are doing the work. You have the district leadership out managing their own plan, but coming together as a leadership team to problem solve and wrestle and adapt. And you'll see on the next slide, at 2 very specific points in the year, we bring all of that up to report out to the board on what's going on. And my hope, and when this is done beautifully, this is a true, honest conversation. Not a glossy picture of what's just great, but what's great, what wasn't great, and what we're doing about it so that we can still get those results for kids. Twice a year, you're going to get that full roll-up view. Now, don't quote me on June and December. We'll see how the calendar will pan out based on when data is available. But twice a year, you'll get that full-up view. But throughout the year, and I know you've already started to, Dr. Rose already started it, those spotlights at different board meetings of what's going on in the district, things that are happening. We're thinking about sprinkling spotlights for each board meeting about what's going on in one of the goal areas. So 2 formal times where you get the whole plan, but throughout, updates, ongoing about what's going on with the data, with the progress, with the plan. That's 2 formal ways that we're going to put in place to report out and be transparent. The work, of course, will be aligned to the goal areas. On the next slide, you'll see there's other roles that we need and that a board should play for the strategic plan. So first and foremost, you help hold the attention on these key priorities when the next shiny thing comes. When those loud voices that are not the majority are being loud and asking for something that they would like but is not in our priority list. We need the board to keep the focus on those priorities that we all agree to when we all agree to whatever is in the strategic plan. We need you to actually review those progress, but more importantly, hold us accountable for implementation. That means, what are you doing as a result? How are you adjusting? Your role is the accountability role to say to the district leader who's in charge of that effort or that goal, I see it's not working, what are we doing about it? Or, that did work, what did you do there that we can learn and share somewhere else? And also flagging concerns if and as they arise, because again, the more people we have keeping an eye on what we can do to improve the plan or efforts that we're trying to do for the priorities that matter, the better. And you all have lenses into whatever communications and various pockets you have with your constituents that will be invaluable. And so as you're playing that governance and accountability role, the district then takes on the implementation of the day-to-day, how it gets done. And so Dr. Rowe and his team will be meeting and refining and executing those plans and then reporting out to you on what's working, how we know what we're doing about it, and you're holding them accountable to make sure that those results are happening for kids and staff and community and families. But I see we already have a question on it, so what do you got?
Me?
Yeah. Oh, did you have a question or you just wanted to get to the...
No, I just, when we get to 15, 16, 17, I'll have...
There you go. There they are. And
didn't mean to get ahead of you.
I love it.
I get nervous.
Keeping us on schedule. It's great. That's it. Any questions about it? Yeah.
Okay, thank you very much.
Yeah.
And, thanks to the committee, I really appreciate, when I heard there was going to be 40 people on the committee, I went, oh God, are you going to get anything done? Because sometimes the committee could be too big. And, I think that, I wrote down, you didn't listen to me. I don't want people to come away from this that had wanted other things in this and feel like their voices weren't heard.
Right.
I mean, I think you could go 2 years trying to do a strategic plan, which is ridiculous.
Yeah.
But knowing that they were involved in this, and it was a meaningful conversation. And like you said, you can't include everything, because it would be massive, and I certainly understand that. I did ask Dr. Rowe, I said, okay, how does this fit on our mission? Do we have to revisit our mission? That's a conversation for later.
Yep.
And
It's a conversation we've begun, and it does fit into our mission, however, it needs some tweaks and updating.
yeah, and I'm sure we can look at that at another
And I
board
will tell
meeting.
you, to your prior point about, there's something, and we've gotten along really, really well. Other than when I tried to add a fifth goal, and they told me, no, 5's too many. Because we were having a hard time figuring out where the facility conversation lived. Does it deserve, does it warrant its own goal? And we all agreed it does warrant its own goal, but it couldn't replace any of the other 4 that were already there. So that's why we found a way to intertwine it in 4, and I think it fits perfectly. But to your point, we can't do everything. And if
No.
we try and do too much, we do nothing.
Right, right. I've been there,
Or we
done
don't
that.
do it well.
So, I was, when we were with the students before, I leaned over to Dr. Rowe and I go, well, how are you going to measure this? The devil's in the details. I know that's going to come later. And Dr. Rowe and I are talking about how we can include the sender districts, the feeder districts in this.
Absolutely.
And we're having a little conversation about how to do that.
Good.
So hopefully that'll be coming. And, we do spotlights. We've already do that spotlight. So certainly a spotlight on where we are with the strategic plan is absolutely positively where we should go.
Yeah.
And I appreciate the work. Is the committee meeting anymore?
Yes, we're gathering feedback in November. We're going to synthesize everything we heard and come back for our last workshop where we basically wrestle with
Okay.
what they said and where we want to recommend. Because coming out of the committee is a recommendation to the superintendent.
Okay, I think that would be a nice celebration of their work that night. But, okay, board
Well,
members,
since we have
thank you.
everybody here, can you just very briefly?
Yeah.
Because we're already 2 minutes beyond our plan.
Oh.
It's okay. Talk about what the spring holds. So once we get to December,
Yeah.
there's a final meeting, and then there's still a lot of work
Oh, a ton of work.
in the spring before we come back with a final plan to you.
Yeah, that's where all the details come in, right? So that's where you take whoever is going to actually plan out how to execute these strategies and get some planning teams together, mostly district leadership, who's actually going to execute the strategy, but with touch points to get focus groups from, for instance, one of our strategies right now is the inclusivity strategy. Absolutely, they're going to need to be talking to families and students to make sure what they're planning is right, but they'll put the devil in the details. The plan, milestones, metrics, how they track it over time, all that comes together in the spring so that when we have the final plan, it's the public-facing outline and then that internal detail for how you actually execute and measure it.
Thank you. Ms. Palmer, or Mr. Dussin, did you have
Yeah.
something? Go ahead. Are your microphone on, hon?
I don't know. Yes, it is.
Okay.
Beautiful. There was a lot of work that went into coming up with, obviously, and it's greatly appreciated. And I understand the board's role. Again, where the rubber hits the road for me is when we get into the plan outline under the four major areas, and that is the numeric targets on each
Yes.
one down at the bottom. If I'm a board member and I'm asked to gauge whatever is in the thing here, I can't do that by just, talking to people. I've got to see data.
Absolutely.
And that's the key to me.
Yeah.
However it is, and maybe this isn't all the data we get to see, but if you want me to manage it, I got to see some data.
Absolutely.
The soft skills are good, no problem, shaking people's hands, but show me the data.
Every goal, metric, measurable, data, target, showing
Absolutely.
progress towards it.
I can manage that. I know how to manage that.
Good, good.
Thank you.
Anyone else?
One aspect that I would like to, if you could just elaborate a little bit, maybe that came up in the strategic meetings. One of the things I see is as we focus on the student, we get them to high school, right? And now we want them to be accountable. We want them to be on their own. And I worry sometimes that we focus on trying to get them independent when, really in life out there, it's interdependence. So you still want that connectivity with family, and that's captured in parts of this. One of my concerns would be how, and you'll probably address this maybe in the goal 2 for the environment, but really finding a way to connect with families and get them engaged. And I don't know if it's from the technology that there's a greater gap, or, like I said, as I think education has progressed, we've possibly created more of a low distance between families, because we now send emails to the students, I mean, it used to be different when paper used to come home and parents had to sign it, so to speak, but, so there was just a little more engagement possibly at that point. So I just was curious if that came up, or if you have anything, and I realize we still have months to go before implementation, and you'll have suggestions at that point, but any initial thoughts?
We have it in a few places, which is helpful, I think, gets a different, so the inclusivity includes specifically families. Actually, some family members of the steering committee were coming up with ideas where they could be more engaged if only you would do X. Some of the streamlined resources, translation, it's like, why are we doing that 7 times? Can we have a district translator in Russian? So there's, in a couple places, it's how can we better engage with families? It just didn't get to its own
And
piece.
even some of the ideas that were shared was leveraging like community ed
Right.
in terms of parent education as an avenue, which is, something we talk about internally, but something that needs more work.
I do. I mean, even as a parent with high schoolers, it's different than how we were raised, and, could use some tools, so thank you.
It always goes back to how to do modern math. The adults don't know how to do it unless you're the teacher in the classroom, probably.
Okay, anyone else before we go into closed session? Thank you. Great conversation, board members.
So
Really
much.
appreciate it. And we look forward to the next update. Thank you. Thank you, Rebecca. Okay, I need a motion and a second to go into closed session for the purpose of discussing board self-evaluation.
So moved.
Second.
Call the roll.
Fiorito?
Yes.
Rauch? Aye. Dustling? Yes. Heineman?
Aye.
Palmer?
Aye.
Walker?
Yes.
And Kreutzer?
Aye.
Motion carries 7-0.
We won't have any business when we come out of closed session. We will come back and adjourn the meeting. Thank you all.